Yeah. Quite odd.
I'll do my best. Hey guys, welcome to Game 3 between Roots Catz, starting at the 6 o'clock location as the blue Protoss, and TTOne from fnatic, 3 o'clock location as the red Protoss. And I like what you said earlier, In Control, that I like that it's on Lost Temple. I love that you said that this truly is the Gladiator pit for StarCraft 2. It is the constant map for the ages. Very balanced, balanced in this matchup, very entertaining. And between the two, I'm going to favor TT1 just a little bit, particularly, but I think Catz can do a lot on this map. And fortunately for Catz, it looks like he is going to get scouted right off the bat. Probe going directly into his base, still having a little bit of lag issues. We'll try to smooth out for you guys. And that's really, that's got to make Catz uncomfortable. There's nothing more annoying than having a probe in your lines right to begin with. Obviously not game-ending, but still frustrating.
Yeah, and that pylon placement has me kind of wondering. I mean, again, we see the mineral count rising for TT1. Perhaps he's going to try the same exact thing. Nexus first opening, again, close position. So, I mean, last game I was like, oh, LOL. TT1's going to die. It's going to be this really disappointing game. But then, of course, he proved me terribly, terribly wrong. And in fact, he is going to actually feint away from the Nexus first opening and go with the Forge here. And we do have that probe down at the expansion spot for the Zerg and the pylon going down, disrupting that hatch first opening. That was, again, what Catz wanted to do. You know, gods be damned. I don't care if it's close positions or if there's a probe already in my base. I'm going to try to hatch first. So someone should probably contact Catz and say that that's just playing with fire. That's pretty unnecessary.
It looks like Catz, for whatever reason, I think because he did not scout that pylon, is a little bit confused. So he's wandering around with that drone at the 12 o'clock location, trying to figure out where this additional pylon was placed. And while he's distracted by that,
what's the probe doing?
Looks like he's fighting, and the probe going up there as well.
Maybe thinking that, you know what he's doing?
He's checking for another proximity hatchery, perhaps?
Well, a hatchery, yeah, an expansion somewhere else. I think you're absolutely right.
I was actually tempted to see, I was like, I wonder if Catz is actually going to expand up there, but I think he was wandering around trying to find the proxy, send in 2 drones, and I think that's why he sighed, because he came across, saw the Forge in the low ground, was like, okay, the one place I didn't look, which is why we saw the, and now Catz not in the best situation. He still hasn't expanded. He still actually hasn't gotten Zerglings quite out yet to deal with that, and is going to be running into what looks like a pretty sizable wall here. Still,
one of the things that can be said too is that, like, part of the reason TT1 was on the top of the map scouting for an expansion like that is because he knows Catz so well. I mean, Catz is one of those guys where if you know how he plays, he's actually a lot easier to play against than a lot of other Zergs. But if you don't know how he plays, then he's actually one of the toughest Zergs you could imagine. So I kind of want to pick him up by the arms and drop him off in Korea and just laugh at all the Koreans as they tear their own heads off. Because they're like, that doesn't make sense. You shouldn't do that. Why would you do that? And then he's like, well, it works, and then it does. You know, I mean, he's a very smart, creative player. But again, sometimes he thinks himself into the ground.
Looks like in the meantime, 4 Zerglings taking out that pylon, but 2 drones, hero drones, at this stage, providing all sorts of harassment in the back of TT1's base, running all over the place. Managed to delay that Nexus for a little while, but Catz still, I don't like his position economically behind already, just now getting his natural expansion up. TT1 has a pretty sizable wall. Looks like Catz getting something accomplished, though, is going to go for a gas deal on that extractor. Not really going to hurt TT1 all that much because he still has 2 additional geysers that are going to open up. That is natural to follow this up, but maybe at least for some ferrying. And interestingly enough, it looks like Catz may be thinking about taking the opposite corner gold expansion by you can see he's already opening that up with the Zerglings, and perhaps that's his plan to try to catch up economically rather than trying to bust that front wall. But TT1, knowing Catz with the persistent scouting with that probe out in the field, knowing that Catz probably will take a long distance, how did that additional drone even get in there? Catz somehow magically getting a drone past the wall and able to sneak in and provide some additional scouting. While I have no idea. I wish I could rewind and do that. But in the meantime, really close. Goal expansion up. TT1 still just absolutely mining away.
Yep, and we do see that the effect of that early game shenanigans is already taking effect. A third macro hatchery going down for Catz, and again, That's nice. It's a good reaction because what alternative does he have? But it's not optimal. It's not what he wanted to do. He did not envision going into this game with a 3-hatch before lair type of game. But TTOne just doing a good job kind of meeting him with a grinning LOL face around every corner. He keeps trying to proxy hatch or take an advantage expansion or even hatch first. And TT1 is there at every single step like a stinky uncle at a bad party.
In the meantime, it looks like we have seen a Stargate production from TT1, so maybe thinking about going to the air, especially because he's delayed Catz's economy so much, and Catz really, he's assuming Catz is going to cut a little bit behind on the gas and maybe catch that layer a little bit late, and that actually may be the case here. It looks like some queens out, but Catz's economy not in the place it would usually be in a standard match, and a Phoenix is going to be actually chrono boosted out. And additionally, what those Phoenixes can provide is some nice scouting information for TT1 against a very wily player in Catz. It looks like that gold expansion is up. You even have the drone right there preparing to take it, and that's the thing. If that Phoenix goes the long way around, hunts overlords, and finds that could be absolutely devastating for Catz, because he's basically the defense of that gold expansion currently is that TT1 does not scout it.
And look at that probe still remaining active. In fact, I think it's on patrol command. Nope, actually it's on move command. So this is TT1 just manually scouting each and every base, very aware of whose opponent it is. And also, enough can't be said about that drone, Houdini drone, that was somehow still in that base. It saw the Phoenix being built. So Catz, with a little bit of lady luck on his side, is getting some very convenient information, and he threw down the Hydra Den. So we're looking at like a big macro Hydra bus, which I think is actually quite strong in Lost Temple. We've seen players like Machine, who will be playing later, and also Idra of Team Evil Geniuses doing strategies like that as well.
It looks like also an evolution chamber. Catz is planting that gold expansion. Unfortunately, that is the only location that TT1 is currently not scouted. He's had that probe absolutely everywhere except there. A couple gateways, it looks like continuing Phoenixes as well as a robotics facility. 2 robos, actually, so I think he's scouting the Hydras incoming, and he's going to get a pretty sizable, losing Fear going there, a pretty sizable, I assume, Hydra force, which I don't blame Fear for that at all. I mean, he's doing a lot of the live casting. Looks like maybe some probes, maybe some overlords will be able to pick some of this off for TT1, maybe slow that economy down, but in the meantime, I still feel like TT1, despite all this, is going to be in a nice situation with all those colossi.
Well, it's close, Diggity. He's in a nice position for the time being, but there is a clock, and the sands of time are ticking over his head. He did see those Hydras. There are that creep highway it's like 2 motorcycles going down the freeway, coming right at that Protoss base. And if he doesn't have those Colossus out, which he will, or he should rather, he's got the 2 robos and he's building up those additional cannons, then this is going to clamp down on him and shut him out of this first game set. But here we go. Catz is already going to push the issue. That upgrade on that forge is not looking to finish, and the gateway that is not turned into a warp gate, which should give the Zerg indication that this is a tech opening. Okay, so the cannons up on the cliff are very optimally placed. They cannot be seen, which means they are actually shooting one-way damage. Catz needs to get vision of that if he's going to hope to pick them off.
Ooh, a couple sentries now out, and the sentries could really be the golden unit here. He just needs to delay Catz while he gets those Colossi fielded. Already a couple cannons, lost a gateway, but not a lot else. And oh man, Catz is actually backing off a little bit, trying to gather up some more troops, and some Phoenixes diving in the meantime to try to do some economic harass.
Yep. So I mean, this is actually pretty smart and fun play for us as observers to watch. The Phoenix induces the Hydra reaction, and the Hydras are countered by the Colossus. So TT1 is at least ahead of the curve, and in this game, through and through, on the thought process, it's going to be about execution. So Catz does have position, he does have that high yield already established. TT1 is throwing up that pylon, presumably to start locking down another expansion, and right here the creep should be revealed, and his heart should do a little bit of a flutter. He's like, son of a bitch, you took that base? Oh, you asshole, I scouted everything but this base, and you go and take it. So Catz, he's like 1-6 in the mental aspect of this game versus TT1, but so far it's looking nice for him. Actually, as I say, that like 6 warp gates go down and 2 more Colossus join the mix. So actually, I feel like Catz is not long for this world, as Artosis would say.
Yeah, unfortunately, TT1 scouted that base, a ton of gateways, a lot of Colossi being produced, and the thing is Catz actually even as far as expansions go, a little bit ahead in his gas production. overall, just because of that high yield, though. But I don't think he can stop TT1 here. TT1's just going to have a huge army running out that's going to be very anti-Hydralisk. Is going to be very powerful. Some more Phoenixes diving in there. Actually, it was funny when you said, "Oh," with the yell and the mental note on Phoenix. He actually he dived, lost a couple Phoenixes out in the field over that Hydra Force.
Yeah.
But again, TT1 still is a very strong, very formidable army that I don't know that Catz can stop.
No, this is it. I mean, unfortunately, if you look at Catz, he's just now spent like 1k minerals on units, but it's going to be too little too late. There's 5 Colossus shoving out, a ton of Zealots, which tank that damage fantastically. As far as upgrades go, it's non-existent for our Protoss. He was getting +1 weapons attack when the Forge did die, but he's shoving out. These Corruptors are being spent, so there is about, what is this, like 6 Corruptors on the field as we speak. More joining them quickly, and you know, there's not a lot of anti-air for the Protoss, but I just fear this army can do too much damage too fast before this Colossus can get whittled down.
Kind of interesting what Catz is doing. He's actually brought his army out to kind of almost threaten a counterattack. In the meantime, TT1 holding up that gold expansion, but just kind of creating a little bit of threat out in that field so he doesn't get TT1 being, well, I guess too aggressive at this stage, but TT1 just setting up that gold expansion, establishing position. I think he's going to go for perhaps a containment attack. Oh, catching a lot of these overlords just out in the field. Oh, man. And that's putting Catz way in the red, which is exactly the spot he didn't need to be in with all of these Colossi fielded. Now engaging with several Corruptors underneath, but I think, yeah, that underground army is just going to get wiped out very rapidly, and I think there's plenty of anti-air to cope with that. Otherwise, plenty of Stalkers warping in the background, so I think that's going to be it for Catz's army, and still a gigantic army standing otherwise. 4 TT1 is going to lose a couple Colossi, but considering he's going up against nothing but air at this stage,
yeah,
shouldn't be too much of a problem. They just look at all those Stalkers. So the Colossi dancing around while the Corruptors are picked off one by one, and just a huge Stalker Zealot and a handful of sentries now just poised right outside of his natural, just walking in now.
Yeah, I don't know what Catz was thinking. I mean, he had something in the realm of 20 Corruptors, but then like 4 Hydras and 5 Roaches. So, I mean, even if somehow the Corruptors grew giant faces that shot even bigger globs of boogers at like they one-shot Colossus, you're not going to win against the Gateway army with just 9 units or something in there. So, I mean, he probably did the best he could with what he had, but unfortunately that little gap of not spending your money and then running up against that many Colossus in close positions like this is just too much for him to overcome.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like TT1 is just happy to sit with these Stalkers to clog that expansion. A lot of these Roaches getting taken out, and this is the thing with Catz pulling all of these Harvesters off the line to engage this, and it looks like actually TT1 backing off now, and a Roach running out in the field. Run, Roach, run! Not going to make it. Whoa! The Stalkers continuing to engage the Roaches in open field, and Catz now down to 30 Harvesters compared to the 70. That is correct, 70 of TT1. TT1 also grabbing his gold. Yeah, this is just a terrible, terrible situation. More Overlords getting picked off an open field. TT1 continuing to force the issues that Catz has to continually engage here, just forcing him to produce more attack units just to stay alive rather than producing Harvesters. And yeah, it's just the snowball effect at this stage. Drones now pulling off the line for what I assume is the final attack here from Catz. The Stalkers just having the time of their lives, just laughing at this army, while the Colossi just sit behind them. You can't. Nothing's more confident than a Stalker with his friends with 2 Colossi buddies directly above. There's GG. Catz going to fall to TT1. TT1 taking the set.